Okay, let's try this exposure. This Namu Myoho Renge Kyo, this brief Gosho, is, I believe, one of the most important that Nichiren wrote regarding Gohonzon. He wrote it in 1272, so not long after he began his broader teaching to create more teachers, to his disciple Abutsubo Nitoku. Abutsubo was a samurai who had accompanied the retired Emperor Juntoku to Sado when he was exiled there as a result of the Jokyu disturbance of 1221. It's more likely, however, that he was a native of Sado Island. In either case, he was a longtime resident of the island. He went to Tsukahara to debate with Nichiren Shonin and was converted to Nichiren Shonin's teaching. He and his wife became loyal supporters of Nichiren and brought him food and other necessities for much of the time he was on the island. After Nichiren took up residence at Mount Minobu, Abutsubo made at least 3 visits there despite his advanced age. He died in 1279 at the age of 91. So this letter was sent to him late in life. Nichiren was known to send letters of encouragement to his followers, not necessarily in their last years, but this was one of the forms of his Gosho. And in the Gosho, he identified our personal relationships with the treasure tower, the Gohonzon. After I read this, I'm going to give you some resource material that's on my website at threefoldlotus.com, and some avenues for you to research this further. But a lot of you have been asking questions about Gohonzon, what's on the Gohonzon, what do all these characters mean, what's the history of Gohonzon, so on and so forth. And I think that this Gosho on the treasure tower is very specific to those questions, and it also does, as Nichiren repeats in many other ways, and you've heard me talk about it in the Lotus lectures and in Gohonzon lectures, but here he encapsulates it quite well in a personal document that we should all hear as directed to ourselves. And you'll understand why as I get into this. So here we go. I've read your letter with great care. I have also received your offering to the treasure tower of 1,000 coins, polished rice, and other articles. This I have respectfully reported to the Gohonzon and to the Lotus Sutra. Please rest assured. All right. Now, without research and the discussion we're going to have here and your own study and following up on this, as I've said before, with all things Lotus Sutra, the Lotus Sutra sits on top of a great amount of scholarship. And so to read the Lotus Sutra alone is, you may get it. But I think it's a small percentage of us that will read the Lotus Sutra and get the depth of its teaching. We really need to research before the Lotus Sutra after it, the Nirvana Sutra, in order to understand and grasp the depth of the teachings that are in the Lotus Sutra. It's very hard to learn particle physics without first understanding mathematics and then advanced mathematics, so on and so forth. So, even in this letter, he's going to make references to the treasure tower. And if you haven't read even the Lotus Sutra with regards to the treasure tower, let alone the teachings before it that lead to this understanding of the treasure tower, it just sounds very, I don't know, mystical or fantastic or folkloric. But the depth of meaning it's easy to miss. And in this, Nichiren will kind of take it apart. In your letter you ask, what is signified by the thus come one many treasures and his treasure tower, which appeared from beneath the earth? So this is directly from the Lotus Sutra, but basically Abutsubo was asking about the significance of Gohonzon. The teaching of the treasure tower is of great importance. In the 8th volume of his Words and Phrases of the Lotus Sutra, the great teacher Tendai explains the appearance of the treasure tower, the appearance being in the Lotus Sutra. He states that it has two distinct functions: to lend credence to the preceding chapters and to pave the way for the revelation to come. Thus, the treasure tower appeared in order to verify the theoretical teaching and to introduce the essential teaching. To put it another way, the closed tower symbolizes the theoretical teaching and the open tower the essential teaching. So, in a different way, he's saying what I just introduced to you is that the treasure tower, the Gohonzon, and I'll take that apart more in a minute, but the treasure tower appears to uphold, embrace, include, expose all of the previous teachings, not just in the Lotus Sutra, but what the Lotus Sutra stands on. So the Gohonzon, in effect, the treasure tower, let's stick to that, includes all of the Buddhist teachings. And then it also opens the door to now you're going to take all of that knowledge and perception and insight and understand how to grasp it essentially, the core. That also stands on top of everything else, but the core is universal. So let's go on. The open tower reveals the two elements of reality and wisdom. This is extremely complex. However, so I will not go into it in further detail now. So there's your exegesis to study. So here, in essence, the appearance of the treasure tower indicates that on hearing the Lotus Sutra, the three groups of voice hearers perceived for the first time the treasure tower within their own lives. Think about that. Hearing the Lotus Sutra, the three groups of voice hearers perceived for the first time, we're the voice hearers, the treasure tower within their own lives. So the treasure tower, as it is explained in the Lotus Sutra, and everything that bolsters that teaching so that you can understand all of its relevance, is now embodied in each one of us. It's not a teaching from outside. It's not an apparition. It's not a story that's convenient. It's not mystical. It's simply describing something within our own reality, our own nature. This is the wisdom, reality wisdom. Now Nichiren's disciples and lay supporters are also doing this. In the latter day of the law, no treasure tower exists other than the figures of the men and women who embrace the Lotus Sutra. See, he's breaking down exactly why he's created the Gohonzon. It follows, therefore, that whether eminent or humble, high or low, caste system, those who chant Namu Myoho Renge Kyo are themselves the treasure tower. How many ways can he say this, right? And likewise are themselves the thus come one many treasures. Every sentence here is loaded. When we chant the Daimoku, we become the many treasures Buddha. We are the thus come one many treasures. You see how all of this coalesces into your practice. This is why I say this is your enlightenment, yours. No treasure tower exists other than Myoho Renge Kyo. The Daimoku of the Lotus Sutra is the treasure tower, and the treasure tower is Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. At present, the entire body of the Honorable Abutsu is composed of the 5 elements of earth, water, fire, wind, and space. Again, this is like he's talking to you and me. These 5 elements are also the 5 characters of the Daimoku, Myoho Renge Kyo. Abutsubo is therefore, you and I are therefore, the treasure tower itself. You are Myoho Renge Kyo. I am Myoho Renge Kyo. And the treasure tower is Abutsubo himself. The treasure tower is you. No other knowledge is purposeful. It is the treasure tower adorned with the 7 kinds of treasures, hearing the correct teaching, believing it, keeping the precepts, engaging in meditation, practicing assiduously, renouncing one's attachments, and reflecting on oneself. You may think you offered gifts to the treasure tower of the thus come one many treasures, but that is not so. You offered them to yourself. You, yourself, are a thus come one, who is originally enlightened and endowed with the 3 bodies. You should chant Namu Myoho Renge Kyo with this conviction. Then the place where you chant Daimoku will become the dwelling place of the treasure tower. The sutra reads, quote, "If there is any place where the Lotus Sutra is preached, then my treasure tower will come forth and appear in that spot," end quote. Resolute mind of determination like yours is so extremely rare that I will inscribe the treasure tower especially for you. This is very important to what I'm going to tell you later. You must never transfer it to anyone but your son. You must never show it to others unless they have a steadfast, resolute mind of determination. This is the reason for my advent in this world. All of this is about Gohonzon and how he at that time was still making Gohonzons specific to certain people. And I'll show you more about that. Abutsubo. You deserve to be called the leader of this northern province. Could it be that Bodhisattva Pure Practices has been reborn into this world as a Butsubo and visited me? Now, do you see how he's using the teachings themselves in order to drive home his point to you and I and Butsubo that we are bodhisattvas of the earth, that we are. He's saying, could it be that Bodhisattva Pure Practices has been reborn into this world as you? He's congratulating his practice, his assiduous study, his determination, his resolute mind. this is he's just trying to drive home his point in a generous way, but also to it's almost like he's desperate for his students, his disciples, to get it, to understand that this is not something that they're studying from outside themselves, that this study of the Lotus Sutra and of Buddhism, of his teachings, of Nichiren's teachings, is all about the perception that all of this is within us already. We need to reveal it to ourselves. What we're studying is ourselves. How marvelous! I do not understand how it is that you have such resolute mind of determination. I will leave it to Bodhisattva's superior practices when he appears, as he has the power to know these things. I am not saying all this without good reason. You and your wife should worship this treasure tower privately. I will explain more later. And that's the whole Gosho right there. So let's get into this a little deeper. I said that Nichiren created Gohonzons for individuals. Well, he did it for certain disciples that were very assiduous in study, that he really wanted to keep encouraged and understand the teachings. But he also did it for his training for other teachers, for those that would spread the word of the Lotus Sutra and those teachings. I have a book here just to give you an idea. Let's look at like one of the first Gohonzons, early Gohonzons that Nichiren created. You see how simple that Gohonzon is? And next to it, this book has a diagram. It has diagrams on the exact content of each Gohonzon. It's an interesting reference. And here's one, and I wanted you to see this one in particular. This is a very early Gohonzon, and you can see that there aren't very many elements in it, right? But those elements are Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Shakyamuni Buddha, Tahoe Buddha, and Nichiren's signature, and Fudo Myoho and Aizen Myoho. That's a formal protectors of my point here is that each one of these, no matter how simple, look at this one. He probably did this one on a napkin when he was at Bob's Big Boy or something. You see how this was obviously done very quickly and given to someone who may have been visiting him. Here in the catalog, it says this is from the Bunei era. It's the Senju Gohonzon. Has the size of recipient, unfortunately not known. Right now it's at Sado Tokozan Myohoji Temple in Niigata. But, I mean, look at the image. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo down the center. And Nichiren's seal at the bottom. They're all of them, no matter how complicated. Look at this one. It's another one I wanted to show you too. This one. The recipient was Ben Ajari Nisho, one of his key disciples, who was going to carry on these teachings. Right. This is often known as the medicine or prayer Gohonzon. A lot of independent Buddhist groups use it, and you may recognize it. I have a clearer version of it available if you're interested. You can see the diagram is quite complex, has 41 elements. But what's interesting about this one is that it has excerpts from the Lotus Sutra and the Nirvana Sutra on the Gohonzon. So this had a very particular purpose. And this was teaching a teacher and quoting stories from the Gohonzon Okay, so this was a special Gohonzon. These stories that are quoted on it, or the small sections of the Lotus Sutra and the Nirvana Sutra, are all three. There's three different sections on here, maybe four. They all revolve around the sickness of not knowing about the Lotus Sutra, not knowing about Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, or knowing about the Namo Myoho Renge Kyo and the Lotus Sutra, more accurately, not either rebuking it or not taking a resolute mind in it. And it references specifically the story of the physician who goes off to help people, to spread the medicine and cure people or help them, and his three sons who stay home, and in his absence, they miss him greatly, but they get sick. And he comes home to find his three sons sickly, and offers them medicine, but only two of the sons take the medicine and start to get better. One of them is so deluded by his sickness that he thinks the father's trying to poison him, so he won't take it, and he's dying. And finally, the father doctor, is so concerned that he actually leaves. He says, "I'm leaving, do what you will. I may not be back, because it's dangerous out there. I may not make it back." And he leaves, and then he comes back later to find that third son that wouldn't take the medication, or medicaments, was so distraught after he left that he might never see his father again, that he ended up convincing himself to take the medication, whether he said, thinking, I don't care if I die now, I'll take the poison and die. But in actuality, he starts to get better, and then the father returns, big surprise, and the son is healed. So that son, it represents people of incorrigible disbelief, or ichantikas. And the other two sons are good students of Buddhism who take the good medicine of Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, and their lives get better. So it's a simile, it's a meditation on the practice of Buddhism itself, and how the human mind struggles with that kind of introspection that is Buddhism, can be so powerful that it actually can turn you into a skeptic and push you away because it's just too much for you to handle. Until you don't have the option, and then you're like, oh my goodness, I probably should have done that, and then you start to practice. So it's very much about a resolute mind and the obstacles of our human mind, and the power of Gohonzon, the power of the teachings. So that's an interesting Gohonzon made for a very specific purpose. And then, of course, one of the latter Gohonzons that we use in our practice is believed to be the one version that he buried himself with. Well, he didn't bury himself, but that he was buried with, sorry. But yeah, they all have, no matter how simple, this Myoho Renge Kyo down the center with his signature. There's some lovely pictures in here, and they give you some. There's actually three books on study, so you can see that. You can find a link to it on my website. The Shute Gohonzon is a teaching Gohonzon that is not an actual inscription by Nichiren, but it is a Gohonzon that has numbered references over each inscription. You see that? And so it's used as a teaching tool to understand Gohonzon. And there's a lot of the Shute Gohonzon is accompanied with a tremendous amount of scholarship. And I give credit to all there were a lot of these materials online for many years, and then these websites have gone away. People have died, people have moved on. And it's really tragic that a lot of this information is so hard to find now. But I've managed to capture a lot of it. And as you may be familiar with my website, Threefold Lotus Queen, or threefoldlotus.com, sorry. I have added a link. There's a link here, just as you scroll down at the top of the page, called Core Study Materials. And if you click on that link, Core Study Materials, it will take you to a page that has a collection of buttons. And it goes on. It's bigger than this sheet of paper. And you'll notice at the top there's two. There's the Core Study Materials, which just takes you right back here. The second button is the Gohonzon Personages Map. And if you click on this button, you'll go to a very lengthy page that has this Shute Gohonzon on it, and all of these numbered elements described, but they're also given with information from Rui McCormick, who had this online on the Nichiren's coffeehouse.net, which unfortunately no longer exists. But a tremendous amount of scholarship and research on his part. And I've included it here. There are certain elements like Namo Myoho Renge Kyo that will warrant depth of perception or study. Don't know what's wrong with me today. And like the Buddhas, Tahoe and Shakyamuni, always up at the top next to Myoho Renge Kyo. And then there are bodhisattvas of the earth, there are devas, there are several entities from Buddhist teachings, pre-Lotus Sutra and Lotus Sutra, why they're included in the Lotus Sutra, why is Devadatta and Shariputra they're on the Gohonzon. This is the Gohonzon is a shorthand for all of the teachings, which, as Nichiren just explained to us on the Treasure Tower, Gosho, is already extant within us. These are all characteristics of the human mind and the potential Buddha mind, and it's all right here on Gohonzon in a shorthand, but without images or faces, so that they're thought. Remember, I say this all the time. Buddhism is a thought experiment in order to enable us to discover what our enlightened mind, which is already there, allow it to come through and perceive with clarity the true nature of not only ourselves, but all life, all people, of all non-sentient beings as well. So it's all here on Gohonzon, which is tough to wrap your head around at first. But as you dig into these concepts and as you read this document that I have put online, you'll begin to understand. You'll get your own insights, and you'll see the information to back the entity of our enlightenment is so huge and overwhelming. At some point, you're going to read something that's going to make you go, I get it, right? For some of us, that may come sooner or later, but it's there. It's guaranteed to be there. The Buddha's whole mission in life was to discover and to teach a method that anyone could study and succeed with. So all of that is upheld in this Gohonzon. Please find the document online, read to your delight, research outside of it, do your own study, but the information is out there. Sometimes you have to dig for it, and that's why I'm trying to use my site to have these research documents, to have my own dialogue and white papers on understanding different aspects of Buddhism, as well as just some of the links will just take you to the raw data that I've extrapolated from all over the internet, so to allow you to have all of these things in the raw to see, and they may be annotated to get the point of these different elements of the teaching. So anyway, that is on the Treasure Tower. to calculate how significant. We just finished the opening of the eyes, which is a tremendously huge document, and just an overwhelming amount of teachings. It takes a while to digest all of it, right? This, as brief as it is, on the treasure tower, really it's just like a straight shot. But I think because many people ask everything, questions from, what is Gohonzon, what's on it, and so forth, all the way to how should I chant? How should I approach Gohonzon? How should I meditate? How should I direct my human mind as I do this practice? I think that's also explored and answered. There's a direct statement in here where he says that this is how you should practice. Let me see if I can find it real quick. That's my music on hold. Sometimes I have to just laugh at myself. Okay, so he says, this kind of determination, where is it? Well, that's too long a pause. But I'll paraphrase. Basically, he says it in one sentence here, is that knowing how this is all part of you and in your life, and that you are the treasure tower. Gosh, I wish I could find it right now, but I can't. Basically, he says this is how you should. Should be your attitude when you chant. So go ahead and read it on your own. You'll see that that one sentence and the sentence before it, where he describes the true entity of chanting Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, being your own very. You are the treasure tower. It's already there. You just need to open your mind to it, and your Buddha mind will perceive the truth of this Gohonzon, the truth of this enlightenment, the truth of your awakening, your stature, your brilliant clarity in your life, and the preciousness of that life will all come together. You just need to own it. And this is the ichinen with which your attitude should be when you chant the Gohonzon. So he's telling you exactly how to practice and how to use this tool he gave us of the Gohonzon. With that, I will end this lecture. As one of you pointed out to me in a comment on one of my videos, my blah blah blah, which is something I said. So he's just quoting me. He wasn't making fun of me, but. I try to be relatable, and so if I succeed in that and make these teachings any more useful for you, then that's my whole goal. And so I have to thank you for participating. And again, if you can, these websites that disappear from time to time that have all this wealth of information is truly lamentable, because it means that somehow they're not being supported enough. And I don't want to go by that wayside. It unfortunately costs money to keep these websites up and maintained and there for our practice and our benefit. Don't get me wrong, I appreciate you just for slogging through these videos. Hopefully there's nuggets of information that are helpful to your practice. That's the only reason they're here. If you can, go to patreon.com/TLK, or just go to my Threefold Lotus website, threefoldlotus.com. It looks like this. There are buttons. I don't have them on this page, but there are buttons to use PayPal to send a donation. Help me pay the bills and keep these videos coming. The depth of my appreciation is life itself. So Other than that, thank you again. I'll let you go now. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Thank you so much for listening, and I wish you well, good health in these troubled times, and resolute mind. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Take care.